Before I start talking about what I want to talk about in this video, I just want to make one thing clear. I am not a scout main by any means. After all, I only have about 17 hours worth of gameplay from him. But with that being said, I hope the gameplay is at least tolerable, especially for people who actually do main scout. With that said, now let's talk about the Babyface's Blaster, a weapon that not a lot of scouts use these days because of the heavy nerfs that it received. But does that mean it's a terrible weapon? Well, I don't think so. I think it could be a very valuable weapon in the right hands, especially if you know how to use it and what it's good for, and that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. You see, when I first started using the Babyface's Blaster, I pretty much treated it like the scattergun, where I was trying to engage enemies at medium to close range if I can, and through that I figured out how the benefits and the consequences would affect me. Let's take a look at the stats of this gun. The benefits are that when you land your shots, it builds boost, and your run speed is increased with that boost. But on the negative side, you have a 34% clip size reduction, you are 10% slower when you have no boost, and your boost is reduced during air jumps or when you're hit. So it's pretty much self-explanatory at what it does, what it adds, and what it removes. So then why don't we see more scouts use this as much as the scatter shot? Well, I think it's because in this case, the negatives outweigh the positives. First of all, there's a 34% clip size reduction, which means you only have 4 shots before you have to reload entirely. Now, to some this may not seem like a big deal because many enemy types, like less than 200 health, will only take about 2 or 3 hits of close to kill. But something like a heavy will take much more than just 4 shots, and it doesn't help either if you keep missing when running around. But I don't think this is a big deal breaker, and I especially don't think the second one is either, which is a 10% slower move speed. You see, we all know that Scout is the fastest class in the game, with his normal speed being 133%, but with that 10% speed reduction, it goes down to 120%. But make no mistake, even with this minor debuff, he is still the fastest class in the game. The only other 2 classes that are close to his speed are both the Medic and the Spy, both at a constant 107%. But now let's talk about speed boost. At 50%, Scout gains a 27% boost, but at 100%, he gains a 53% speed boost. To put things into perspective, this is more than twice as fast as a normal soldier or a heavy speed. So yeah, that's pretty darn fast. But of course, there had to be some drawbacks to this, which brings me to the last 2 points, which are boost reduced on air jumps and boost reduced when hit. So pretty much any damage that you take, whether it's from an enemy or just simple fall damage, your speed will reduce. According to the official wiki about this gun, it says this: if the scout takes damage or jumps mid-air while using the Babyface's Blaster, the boost meter is reduced by 4% for each damage point, 25 damage to bring a full meter down to 0, and 75% for each air jump, causing the scout to lose momentum. Ground jumps do not lower the boost meter. Similar to many on-effect weapons, shooting an invulnerable enemy still fails the boost meter, and shooting disguised spies do not grant boost. Basically, just because you're taking damage from an enemy doesn't mean that your entire boost meter is going to go down. You have to pay attention to how much damage you're taking, and if you can return that same amount if not more damage to keep your boost meter up. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any statistics on how much damage you need to do in order to fill up the boost meter. However, the wiki does say this: the minimum boost gained from any damage dealt is 5%. Considering that the Babyface has a total of 10 pellets similar to the scattergun, I'm assuming that even if 1 pellet connects to the enemy, you're still going to gain the 5% boost. So it's simple, if you want more boost, do more damage, and the best way to do this is to catch the enemy off guard, which brings me up to my point of how I would use the Babyface Blaster. Throughout this video, you might have seen me run up behind someone and shoot them in the back, or maybe go to their spawn and destroy their teleporters. Well, if you might have guessed, that's exactly how I use the Babyface Blaster: get behind enemy lines and take down everything that I can. However, I didn't show one very specific item that helps me achieve this. A secondary that quite literally makes you invincible, and of course, I'm talking about the Bonk Atomic Punch. Many people have different opinions when it comes to Bonk. Some say that it's still very useful to this day, while others think that it lost its full potential after the Jungle Inferno update in 2017 when they nerfed it. For me, I typically don't use Bonk as often because I find myself using the Mad Milk or maybe the Pretty Boy's Pocket Pistol a lot more. But in this case, Bonk and the Babyface's Blaster are pretty much meant for each other because after you build up your entire meter, no other class will be able to catch up to you. Now, of course, sentries and other people can still shoot at you, but if you're careful, you'll be practically long gone before the effect wears out. Although the babyface does not affect the slowness that you receive from bonk, at least you get to keep your original boost meter, meaning that you can make another quick getaway if you need to. And this is exactly how I would use the babyface blaster and how I think its full potential could be unlocked. Of course, this isn't always going to work, especially if you don't have the right speed or if there are too many obstacles in the way, but nevertheless, this is going to be one devastating combo in the right hands. So that was pretty much my take on the babyface blaster. I don't think it's a terrible primary. In fact, I don't think it's even a bad one either. Every primary is good at something, and I believe I showed exactly what the babyface blaster is good for. Whether you agree with me or not, it's up to you. But anyways, have a good day.